welcome back to the conversation. I'm going to talk a little bit more today about the return reality of the use of AI agents, um, uh, that is, things artificially generated intelligence, programs with high degree of agency and a certain degree of insight into their behavior and moderate degree of planning ability on par with that of most people. This is believed to be something that will um, come into common use, arguably already existing in a variety of forms in the high-end AI labs, but will come into use by ordinary citizens in by the end of this year, or at some point in 2025. Um, so I'm going to talk about this as a credible and necessary way to see that the techno-communist outcome, described many times in this show in a variety of ways, um, comes to pass. We have very little choice but to do this, um, uh, because humankind is well on course to see its extinction or near extinction at the hands of capitalism's climate apocalypse, beginning in about 5 years' time, when we will have permanently breached the 2-degree overheating of Earth. That represents a planet that is, in the years to follow, no longer habitable for mammalian life forms, particularly, of course, we're interested in human life forms. So we must build something like a cybernetic socialist set of governance structures and institutions, which necessarily requires we accept that we must fight against the fascistic West and fight to abolish private wealth. These two necessaries are difficult and daunting as they may be, are preconditions for seeing that humanity will survive in its present state and without a multi-billion person loss of life. I often use this term, the fascist West, on this program and in writing, and I want to be clear that really, for the purposes of this conversation, two types of people in this world: the fascistic-minded, people confused by the lies of elitism and capitalist propaganda, and who, because of that confusion, therefore side with the elites with private wealth over themselves, the interests of human dignity and sustainability of our environment. So there's one type of person, the fascistic-minded, generally people of European descent, are responsible for this set of problems overwhelmingly, and overwhelmingly have this fascistic-minded flaw. On the other side, there are the socialistic-minded people who are their chief character being that they are favorably inclined to the abolition of private wealth and willing to fight for that. If you are not interested in abolishing private wealth and saving humanity from this extinction scenario, you are not a socialist, my friend. You are a capitalist who wants public health service, and that's not a good thing to be in this particular crisis era that we live in. The conversation of AI agents, particularly, let us begin. The rapid development toward artificial general intelligence presents a transformative opportunity to reshape our societies. And while high degrees of automation has replaced workers, labor, in a variety of sectors in the past, oftentimes, or let us say generally, thanks to this fascistic Western influence, not giving workers in those sectors the necessary safeguards, not allowing them to control the high degree of automation in those sectors and therefore by profit for it, profit from it, but rather siphoning off surplus value, as capitalists are always inclined to do, toward the ruling elites. So this high degree of automation is not a unique thing in history, but the emergence of AI automation, and particularly AI agents, which we will discuss in this conversation, promises a profound shift in our time. But again, if that shift is not controlled by workers and people focused on this essential idea that I discussed a moment ago about the abolition of private wealth, then what we will do is accelerate the problem of this surplus value theft and further accelerate other problems under capitalism, most namely environmental problems. That's already seen as we see that these capitalistic AI tech sectors are becoming super polluters on par with other super polluters in existence, as they use a tremendous amount of water and fossil fuel resources to build their capitalistic tech empire. However, these AI agents, these more socialistically conceived intelligent software programs will be capable of independent learning. I will share some of his audiobooks, at least the audiobooks, of course, you get text versions as well, but the audiobook is a convenient way for you to familiarize yourself with this as you go about your own business. This model, where a high degree of advanced computing automation presented by these AI agents can play a central role, and in new concepts in resource allocation, production, and decision making, empowering workers to a high degree in this short time frame that we have, to lead to a classless, post-scarcity society of the kind consistent with communist and serious scientific socialist thought, within this 5-year time frame, where we must transition away rapidly from eco-cellular capitalism. The current global economic system, dominated by imperial forces beholden to finance capital, faces numerous challenges. Income inequality continues to rise. Access to basic necessities remain a struggle for more and more in the so-called affluent West, and the rapid pace of environmental degradation threatens our planet's future. These issues raise questions about the sustainability of these capitalistic models, these more fascistic institutions, and the fascistic-minded worldview that upholds them. And we must then search for alternative approaches, being even seeming somewhat extreme, transition that would certainly be a shock for many, but still preferable to the extinction or near extinction of humankind. The promise of advanced computing-driven socialism, cybernetic socialism, promises a society where AI agents will manage resource allocation and production in novel ways, in a more real-time type fashion, eliminating the need for other kinds of hierarchical structures that respond more slowly. But it should not be the goal in itself to remove centralization as such. The goal must be to build something strong enough to easily overpower these fascistic forces, which currently although less with each passing month, control so much of Western dominated human affairs. So here's how these emerging AI agents could contribute to this vision. We could um, make better use of resources, resource optimization. These AI agents with their um, um, cognitive enhancement for humans and higher level analytical capabilities independently, working together in this human AI hybrid superintelligent network could optimize resource allocation across various sectors, ensuring a more equitable distribution of goods and services. Similarly, um, um, more automated production. This AI agent effort of the kind that I described, human-centered and human-controlled effort, um, could allow for advanced computing powered automation that could change the way that many tasks, such as many repetitive tasks, are undertaken, freeing humans from a certain degree of mundane labor and allowing us to pursue creative or intellectual endeavors. This is a promise often made by um, capitalistic AI pundits, but um, they are well aware, um, most of these people are well aware of the previously mentioned trajectory of automation across the course of the last 150 years, and they represent the interests of those siphoning off that surplus value, and so they are lying when they say that their form of AI automation will change that pattern. They are quite devoted to making sure that that doesn't happen, whether they are willing to admit it or not. So we must build new institutions that actually do so in that capacity. Um, Data-driven decision making in real time, a network of human um, users and AI agents forming an effective superintelligence could together analyze and appropriately process great amounts of data. These could inform institutional and policy decisions in ways that neither uh, state socialist or capitalistic institutions have been able to do. That is to say, allowing citizens to interact with this in real time. The idea of this superintelligent network is that the users themselves would have a good deal, high degree of oversight over everything that happens, but relatively a little labor required of them, following a click-through processes model where they're answering a few yes or no emails and things along those lines throughout the day. All of this can lead to a dramatically more efficient and evidence-based set of institutions and governance structures. Um, the necessary um, steps to offset the horrors of capitalist treatment of workers requires that we use these tools to immediately begin to build structures for the provision of universal basic services. And with advanced computing models like the aforementioned network of AI agents, controlling and envisioning new forms of production, these concepts, like basic income and the provision of other service, will become increasingly feasible with each passing year. And this should be leading quickly to minimum standards of living across various services for our citizens. Um, there are various, I've said on the show many times that what the USSR did from the years approximately 1923 to 1948, in a quarter of a century, doubling life expectancy there, turning a country of wheat and potato farmers into a country of scientists and engineers. This was done in approximately 1/4 of the time that similar benefits were seen in the industrial capitalist world. Um, and this achievement is something that an enormous amount of more fascistic-minded propaganda has been used to try to discredit, to flip the script on. So rather than thinking about, as was the case during his life and is more factual, Joseph Stalin as one of the key players in this fourfold increase in development and improvement in life expectancy and so forth. We have seen this idea of Joseph Stalin, who was really one of a number of people in the democratic centralist system, in a state socialist and planned economic set of systems, as a dictator doing outlandish things which he did not do. You can read the works of Grover Frere or others, and I hope that you would not engage with people who assert that Stalin was a bad person. Those people are not Marxists. If you are a Marxist and you concede that point, you're very poorly informed on the subject, but I digress. The main point here is that the threat to cybernetic socialism is not the transition itself, but rather fascistic forces which must be actively resisted in word and deed, up to and including militant actions, and this and only this will lead to the successful salvation of humanity from capitalism's climate apocalypse. But let's consider some other challenges. The widespread adoption of AI agents is often and similar automation is often described as something that will lead to widespread job displacement. So, for example, you can find a great many pundits who focus to a high degree on how computer programmers are being automated out of existence and how this is a troubling harbinger of things to come. Most of these people have almost no insight into worker history because they don't recognize that this has happened so many times already that workers in the West are living in a veritable hellscape of wage slavery and want. So they are focused on basically white supremacist consideration is that white workers from their sectors might be in a position that the rest of the world is already in. However, job displacement because of AI agents is a serious consideration, and it requires that we work to build more agile mutual aid networks, and position ourselves to practically advocate for stronger social safety net programs, and of course, high on that list should be educational programs of education of any kind should be free and a human right, along with other means of human empowerment. Algorithmic bias is already a serious problem. You can I would encourage you to look at the organization and work of Timothy Gebru, a pretty serious thinker named Google Whistleblower, who now runs organizations that identify this kind of bias, and it exists in many, many forms, we move to discriminatory outcomes of the kind where, as I mentioned a moment ago, um, systems and worldviews are constructed in such a way that only really the problems of white upper middle class, so-called upper middle class people, and people in this position of being either ruling elites or of the professional managerial class serving the ruling elites, only their interests are really even acknowledged, and other people in much direr circumstances are just dismissed. This definition of dystopian fiction, for example, is for things to happen to people of European descent in the dystopia that are already happening to people in the global south. So that's the bad outcome, right, in the Western popular imagination, that they should be treated the way that they actively treat billions of others. Control and oversight used through AI agents, power concentrated in advanced computing control systems necessitates um, robust and agile oversight mechanisms to ensure accountability and prevent misuse. I am inclined to think that this is a particular risk in the earliest stages of this AI agent, building of this AI agent network, because as the user base of something like this grows into the hundreds of thousands or millions, it becomes harder and harder to make missteps, and accountabilities built into the system at that point. The road to AI agent centered cybernetic socialism should not be viewed as a short-term, one-time event, but rather a set of processes and ultimately a long-term process that must be undertaken immediately. So here are some stepping stones to this AGI run citizen government. The development of ethical AI frameworks, establishing ethical guidelines for the development and deployment of AI agents is crucial. That's why I thank you for participating in our techno-communist conversations that we can envision and begin to understand how such things can and should be built, and not allow these more fascistic-minded people to continue to dominate these sectors as they do today across the Western world, particularly in the United States. Similarly, public education and discourse requires a focus on these questions and open discussions about the implications of advanced computing and this AI agent run cybernetic socialism are essential for public acceptance and informed participation. We can begin to look at, as these AI agents come into their own in 2025, but we can begin to work on this now. We can develop citizens spearheaded pilot projects and other forms of social experiments with these advanced computing-driven systems. This can give us valuable insights and identify potential challenges. We can begin running simulations of how these things would look in the real world through the use of this kind of network for these kind of agents. The rise of AI agents presents in present form mostly challenges because the aforementioned fascistic-minded and professional managerial class and ultimately ruling elites control these sectors in the U.S. and West, but ultimately provides opportunities unlike anything we've seen as well. By harnessing the potential of advanced computing and addressing these associated challenges, we can explore paths toward a more just and equitable future. This is necessary for sustainable unsustainability. And I again urge you, if you have some hang-ups about fighting for for the abolition of private wealth and an end to imperialistic and capitalistic institutions, I want to remind you that you do so at your own peril, because these institutions are the thing that force us to capitalism's climate apocalypse, this runaway overheating that will make life unsustainable for human beings. The United States military-industrial complex is the world's worst polluter, but it's far, far worse than that, because they only really protect other super polluters and imperialist mechanisms. They don't protect any human beings. They don't protect any citizens of the United States. And so such an abomination should not exist. And so I would urge you to consider that cybernetic socialism and the fight to abolish private wealth, while these have seen setbacks in recent decades, they should serve nevertheless as your guiding light, prompting other discussions and exploration into how advanced computing of a variety of kinds, but most particularly the network of AI agents described here, can be used to create a better world for everyone.